Alrighty, good morning. I understand that this is a virtual classroom, but it's quite cool that there's actually people there because that would be a bit
No,
tricky.
we're virtual.
You're virtual too. They can do wonders with animation these days.
We look pretty good, don't we?
Yeah, it's pretty spectacular. So Nick asked me just to pop in and quite informally talk you through some of the ways I've engaged with social media in my teaching. Probably I'd start with the why. And the reason I decided to, as you all know, the dilemma is that when you're sitting in a lecture theatre, the students are on Facebook. And the attitude I took is, and this may be because I'm Generation Y too, but the attitude that I took is rather than fight upstream, is to actually swim with the current and just manoeuvre the current in a way that suited my andragogical purposes. And so I thought, well, if you're going to be on Facebook anyway, if this is where you live, then I'm going to go and live there too, so at least I'll be online. And so it was quite cute when I first set it up. I'd be in a lecture theatre and they'd start sending me messages to try and distract me because I'd have it up online, and they liked and like sending little things. And uptake on it at first wasn't huge because I think they were a bit nervous about what I could see on their pages, because at first I set it up as if it was a friend and people had to add you as a friend. And of course that meant that I could see what a lot of the students were posting on Facebook. And one of them, a student with whom I actually had a pretty good relationship, it was quite funny. I busted him complaining about the assignment. I was teasing him about it. I thought, we'll have to find a solution because, students have a right to complain about their courses. That's just part of university life. But I still wanted to engage with him in that digital world, but without kind of compromising the privacy lines. So what I did is, instead of setting up an account where students would add me as a friend, I just set up a page. And Facebook has this function, and a lot of people use it to run their businesses or to promote their business. So the application on Facebook I'm using is called Pages, and you just really create a page, and then I give students their web address at the beginning, and then they like it, and then they're attached to it. Yes.
Page, can you actually lock down security on it though, or can anyone like it?
Most people can like it, but you can block individual users, and I'll come to that as one of the negatives because I did have a stalker for a little while there. It was a very well-meaning stalker, but I did actually have to block somebody. Yeah. So they are public pages, absolutely. So I don't use them for anything that would be sensitive, for example, any information about. Obviously, I wouldn't use Facebook for sensitive communications about grades or attendance or anything like that. And actually I should say at the outset that my conclusion after experimenting with this is not so much that it's a teaching tool, it's an engagement tool. So I don't really see it so much as a new way of delivering content. I see it as a way of engaging with students to get them on board. Really, that's what it's about. It's about student engagement. It doesn't matter how good your content is if students aren't engaged, they're just not going to absorb any of the content. So what I started doing at first is I made a competition at the beginning of each lecture. I would say whoever does the best Facebook post and can find a current affair that, believe it or not, made constitutional law look sexy, then I'll give you a lollipop. Now, a lollipop is not a huge incentive, but anyone who knows anything about law students knows by nature that they're actually very competitive. And so that actually started it. So if I can show you this bit, the way it's set up is when you log in, you only see the bits that I do. And so, I have actually been on a non-teaching semester in ARS this year. So I haven't been active on here for a while, but I post things that are content relevant, like, what do you think about this, guys? And sometimes I'll have a little bit of a debate and discussion and go, I think that's silly. One of the debates we had was whether constitutionally people had a right to wear religious symbols, for example. Because in Canada, they banned wearing crosses and religious iconography. And so we'd have a debate about that, and they would actually get on at 2:00 in the morning and debate constitutional law stuff. I was really surprised by how they wouldn't do it if it was on a formal thing, but on Facebook, because they're on there anyway, and it just pops up in their newsfeed, so it takes them 2 seconds. They don't have to consciously go, I'm going to engage with constitutional law. Now, constitutional law is coming to them. So these are all student posts. You can see, look at this. This is what blows me out. Maybe it's too soon after the exam to be talking about constitutional law, but have a look at this decision. These guys kept posting after the course. And I've got students from about a year ago who are still posting on here. Here's an article here. Here's from the LSA. And I do think that some of them are funny. I actually had a meme competition. Do you all know what a meme is? Yeah. So it comes from the word. I actually had to ask my 18-year-old sister this about a few years ago because I didn't know what a meme was. And so I looked it up and she goes, oh, it's just this. And I actually looked it up. It comes from the word memetics, which means to spread like a virus. It's a genetic term, actually. And so the idea with the meme is that it spreads and then it becomes part of popular culture. So I actually had a meme competition and a whole bunch of them made memes. That was about a year ago, so I'd probably have to scroll down a fair bit. But these are all students. This is unsolicited. And so they say, oh, look at this cool article. I'm not sure about how the US Constitution works because I have a real emphasis in my course on constitutional law, engaging in a comparative context. It's another issue, but I think that he who knows only his truth knows little of that. And so I think that you don't understand your own legal system until you have something to compare it to and understand what the alternative is. So they do post a lot of comparative type stuff. But you can just see here, same-sex marriage, Indigenous recognition. This is the debate we ended up having about that. You can see there's a whole bunch of comments there where they kind of say, oh, what do you think? Is that justified or not? And I wish I could find you some of the memes because they were really funny, but they're probably only funny to a constitutional lawyer because they're about cases. For example, there's one case where, as you all know from The Castle, you all know the movie The Castle, you know how his house gets acquired by the government and he takes it to court. So under the Constitution, you have the right to just terms compensation. And there was one case where someone took away someone's land and they gave compensation for the value of the land, but they were also running a car park business on the site. And so the issue was whether just terms would require them giving compensation for the loss of the car park as well. And they made, that little meme face? It looks like a long potato chip. It's a very popular meme face, and it's like, oh no, you take my car park. So they were just popping up just funny things, which seemed silly, but I said, oh, you actually understood that case. And someone actually took into their notes in the exam memes about the cases, because it would trigger their memory. Oh, there's a meme. And I'm fine with that. I don't think it's dumbing it down. I think it's them engaging in a way that's culturally relevant to them, and they understood the facts of the case. So I was good. They could talk about it. So I think the upside is that it does promote student engagement, and I think it makes law can be so didactic and seem really clinical, and the reality is that, this, as we know, this has very everyday consequences. So I think it was really good for them to put the law in a broader social context and say, here's how it could be relevant. The negatives of it are, well, as I say, I don't think there's that many negatives because I didn't look at this going, this is going to revolutionise the material. It was, this will make students pay more attention, and they did. They actually send me private messages sometimes. I had a Nerdfest award for the person who kept posting the most after the course. And I've still got students who left a year ago who still post on here. I've used it to share photos, and I was a bit worried about this because obviously, photos are a little bit more sensitive on a site. So I asked their permission, and they actually love it. And I was reading something about the psychology of why Facebook worked more than other social networking sites that set up before. And the theory is it was the ease with which photos are shared. It was the photo sharing capacity that distinguished Facebook from, say, Hi5 or those early generation social media sites. And so I started putting photos up, and they love it. You can see you've got a few likes here. These are the legends from 133, because I'm just reactivating it again. And I'll often share, resources here that I might not get a chance to show in the lecture, but, here's a short video of a topic that's relevant. This is the law of armed conflict. Even just little things, I unpublish the page between semesters, and then I republish it again, which is just pressing a button. It's not a big deal. But I just reactivated it to share news that one of their classmates had won an award in an aviation law essay from that class. And you can see, 10 of them there, and, they all got on and went, oh, congratulations, Kyle. So it kind of promotes morale and camaraderie, I think, too, amongst the students because they're on there commenting all the time. And even this, like, poor old Thomas, I shouldn't really name him actually, but he's left the class, some time ago. He's still on here posting all the time. And then here's the post by students on this one. Again, there we go, they're posting selfies because everyone loves a selfie, but they're engaged. They had to dress up for class that day, that's why they were taking selfies. We were doing a negotiation with some terrorists and an independence movement. But these are the articles that they themselves are teaching. They're saying, hey, look, I found this resonated with me. What do you think, Danielle, type thing. The only thing negative, as I said, is, as you kind of mentioned at the beginning, Joe, is that they are open sites. You can change the settings so that they're more secure, but then the problem with that is that people have trouble finding you. For example, I was just trying to get Nick to add it so that he could put it up on his screen and he couldn't find me. Yep.
I eventually found it just by going on Google. I used your title and then put Facebook pages, and
it came up that way.
I tried searching in Facebook.
And it wouldn't come up. And I think that's because I did have this kind of, I don't know whether they're a troll or whatever you call them, but he'd get on going, oh, hello, I can't believe you're saying this. And he just kind of poked fun. And it was kind of, I let it go for a little while because the students were arguing with him. And it was a meaningful discourse. And then I just went, you're not a bond student, I don't know who you are, out. And you can block individual people. But that's probably a weakness, is that it is exposed to that. But to be honest, that's where they live anyway. So I like Facebook because of the photo sharing bit. Oh, here we go. Here's a meme. Try and close and touch all about that. And there's that one that they always use. What's that guy from Game of Thrones? Ned Stark, his character. They use him a lot in the memes as well. One does simply not violate the Geneva Convention, I think. So yeah, that's really, there is some literature after the fact, after they started really liking this. I actually looked at the literature on it. This was all just a try it as you go. I wasn't really thinking of it in a kind of educational science context. It was just more, you're on Facebook, fine, I'll meet you there, because that's where you are anyway. So I had a look at some of the literature, and the literature is divided. Some say it's good, some say it's not. I think it's good, but it's not a holy grail, it's just another tool. Don't think it's the be all and end all, but I think they are more engaged. I know another one of our colleagues, Darren, is using Twitter, and I saw at the Learning and Teaching Forum the other day that that's quite a thing now. He used to have been doing that for a little while. He embeds Twitter onto his iLearn site, and it's a way of students getting access to all the current media articles without him having to do much at all, because he just subscribes to a few different people on Twitter, and then it's automatically there. The current affairs context is automatically there. So really, it's fun, and they like it, and they get on board, and it provides that nexus between current affairs and real world, and what can be quite dry material. And they meet you there, I suppose. It's somewhere where you can hang out together, and sometimes the classroom doesn't, ironically, even though you're physically in close proximity, you're not really in proximity. You actually find I'm closer with them and actually interacting and debating and engaging in issues more here than in